Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I think these biomechanics have an impact outside of just health, and today, specifically on politics. A little while ago, I think, some months back, I watched the Tucker Carlson interview of Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, on YouTube. And I hadn't seen Putin in a while. I just hadn't really paid attention to him. But I used to know him very well because I lived in Russia from 2006 until 2009, and then again in 2017 and 18, right? So I used to see Putin in the media, pretty much on a daily basis. And so when I saw him on being interviewed by Tucker Carlson, like the thing that struck me was how much his face and neck had changed from what I was used to seeing. My benchmark was 2018. Like 2018 was the last time I was paying attention to what Putin looked like. And, his neck and his face had changed. Like the soft tissue that I pay attention to had gotten a lot worse. And it was clear to me that he was collapsing a bit. And that worries me. It worries me because I know that is not just physical. When the soft tissue starts going like this, there are cognitive and neurological impacts. And it changes the way that you think. And for someone in Putin's position, especially given the war, that's not a good thing. Right? Like you want a person that is logical and not kind of losing it. I've said the same thing about Elon Musk a number of times. And I think Elon Musk, for me, he's losing it in front of everyone. Right. And I still have a ton of respect for him. He's a very smart guy. But I think he did braces and he might have had a couple of extractions, and his face and neck are changing very rapidly now. And when the neck and face change very rapidly, my experience is that your brain is also being impacted. Why is that a bad thing? Because the way that your brain's impacted is not that you're getting happier and easier to deal with. My experience was the exact opposite. I started having grudges more, and I interpreted people's actions with a lot more negative intentions. And remember that I went in and out of this thing for years. I'm coming out the last time, but I spent 10 years and I'd cycled in and out, getting worse and then better. I want to say like probably 5 or 6 times at least. And every time I got worse, I would say like my neurology worsened and I became harder to deal with. And my relationships with people would deteriorate, regardless of my intentions. And one example of that would be me and my mother's relationship. Right? She lives in New York. I've lived abroad most of the time. But she never really bought into this stuff. And, we would fight a lot. She would want to call me once a week. And I would just interpret little things that I probably was too sensitive about and just start these arguments. And so we had a very bad relationship. Now, as I've been improving, I've noticed like our relationship has improved. Almost never get mad at her because she probably doesn't say anything different, right? Like, but the things that she says now that might have pissed me off like a few years ago, like just don't. I'm just like laughing, and I don't interpret it in the same way. I don't interpret it as being personal. I don't hold a grudge. I could just imagine like if I was running Russia, I would be a lot more war kind of prone 3 or 4 years ago, and a lot less logical than I am now. And if I am in my head, who I am now, like I probably wouldn't have started the war almost, right? So like I kind of like question what's really happening to Putin and how much of it is him sort of losing it a little bit, because I don't really see what he gets out of this war. Right. And I'm pretty close to it because I have a Ukrainian wife and I lived for 10 years in Russia and Ukraine, have a lot of friends on both sides. And I don't think he thought this out very well. And I think it was much more of like a emotional thing that he probably thought about for a while. But I just don't think he was fully in his head when he kind of made this decision. I don't think he's the only case. This has probably happened a lot in history. Right. If we look at some of the leaders that did irrational things, were they being impacted by things that were physical, essentially biomechanical collapse, and they just didn't get it? Hitler, to me, is a prime example. Like you can see the change that happened to his neck and his face during the war. His profile was gone, and things were probably even happening before he started the war. And did that impact him? Like my experience, having gone in and out, is absolutely. Like it would be impossible for that to have not impacted his thinking, right? And I remember watching this one video of him at the Olympics, and he's like shaking back and forth, and he's on methamphetamines. And like, for me, it's if you're healthy and you're in that kind of powerful position, like there's no need or reason to take methamphetamines, right? Like as I get healthier, don't want any artificial shape in my body. Like I don't even drink. I think it shows you that he was going through some stuff physically that probably impacted him mentally. And so this, really worries me about what's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine, because I think you're dealing with a Putin that is not fully in his head, right? And therefore maybe not going to make the most rational, logical decisions even from here on out.